Yeah,
really?
we lost a good hunk of it. Yeah, it was.
Such a good one.
And it was
Adam Herman was talking about being an architect
Or
or
an archaeologist.
archaeologist, and about it was like the coolest thing. I'm like, what?
why did it shut out? Just kind of
It just
glitched out.
Yeah.
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 Well, that's what happens when you use a 2005 computer. Are you still using OG4s?
I got a cheese grater.
cheese grater.
OG5?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still old.
That's the
yeah.
same. This is a
And,
cheese grater.
Pro Tools 10.
Oh, you're way farther ahead than we are.
We're still on 8.
Is it 8 or is it 7?
We had 8. Maybe we went back to 7.
Went back to
Yeah.
7 because it was more stable.
Yeah.
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 So was it when we had switched to 8 that you had to redo the computer right at the beginning of 1 Week Live?
I don't remember what. Yeah, it was like we missed like a whole.
The whole first set except for the last song.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you rebuilt the computer and then put an operating system
Put in-
in and reloaded Pro Tools.
Yeah. It was Chris
No
Hawley. Or,
Wasn't it somebody really good?
yeah, you ended up winning American Idol.
And that's the one
And
we
it's
missed.
crashed and we missed it.
Oh my god.
The one that wasn't on the album is the one who went on to win American Idol. Yeah, he played here when he had awkward silence and when he was 15 and he was just blowing up and moved to New York and
And was this an early 1 week live then?
yeah,
Like,
well not mid well, yeah, earlier.
I would have been about 2008 maybe. Or what's the last year you did it?
I don't know.
5, 4, 2004? Because this computer's a 2005,
Yeah.
and it was like maybe a year old when we bought it.
I don't remember. I was gonna try to do my work and see
I think
and read the liner notes and remind myself where we left off.
So 20 years.
it's almost 20 years.
This will be 21. This will be volume 21 that we're doing a week from today.
which is
Okay.
what are the dates and all that for that? What's all the information that people might want to know about 1 Week Live Volume 21?
Well, this volume 21 starts on October 16th through the 21st. Lots of fun bands on that. Al Sparhawk's bringing in a secret project and Row Family Singers and a whole bunch. Woodbline's going to play with a DJ dubbing us out live on Monday, kicking it off. Torment have a little metal night. So lots of fun.
What night's the metal night?
Tuesday.
Tuesday's the metal night?
Yeah,
Obviously, yeah.
of course.
Tuesdays always go hard, man. They shred.
Yeah, can be true.
It's gonna be on 1 Week Live. Well, and yeah, what else are you doing on a Tuesday night? Yeah, you're not doing anything.
Making pasta, maybe.
Maybe.
John might be. He's been gardening a ton.
Yeah, well, I'm mostly just trying to grow hot chili peppers, and this is, as I was saying earlier upstairs, this is the heartbreaking part of the year because I have so many chilies that are just starting to turn red, and I'm realizing that the temperatures are not going to stay there for it. A lot of these peppers, they just really need a long growing season, and we don't have it.
Oh, it's just
Most of the seeds I started them in late February, so they were already putting up little seedlings in March.
and it's still not long enough. Wow.
Well, I've been getting red peppers.
Oh, you have. Oh,
But-
okay.
There's so many on the plants now that are just not going to make it, and it's just like, come on.
Cover them up with a blankie.
Oh yeah. Tuck 'em
Put a
in.
blankie over them. They'll be okay. You
A
can-
blankie, yeah.
Anything you got, just cover them up. Yeah, on a frosty
Maybe
night.
not a Nipco heater.
So who here was there for the first 1 Week Live then?
Did you record the first ones?
Well, Eric, way back, even before 1 Week Live, there was a radio station, The Bear,
Yeah.
and was it Kyle, the DJ Kyle? I used to bootleg CDs and tapes, even like Mason Jennings. I have a bootleg on a tape of Mason Jennings play here, and I started making this like best of the year off my bootlegs, and I gave him one, and he was like, "This is so cool. We should do a live recording." And then somehow,
Did it kind of start from that conversation?
yeah, totally. And
Really?
then Eric got involved. I don't know if they must have asked you, or I can't remember how, but that's when we did our first live recording. You brought in a split snake, so
Yep.
we split all the mic channels, and this studio that we're in now was just a bare bones basement with normal rafters and dungeony, and he brought in like nothing overly special, and I think a ADAT recorder, an 8-track. Maybe it was mine. I had an 8-track ADAT, but you might have brought one. It was only 8 channels to mic up all 16 So,
So you had to kind of do a pre-mix. You
Eric
have it
was
kinda
down here
mixed.
mixing, drums to 2 tracks, and
Live, yeah.
live, and then sometimes it'd be like an acoustic guitar, an electric guitar, and a violin, and he was mixing that to like 2-track stereo live for the live recording. That's where it started, and it was called Live at Beaner's back then, with homegrown radio. And I'll have to take a photo of that. I have the original art somewhere upstairs, I think. And Chris Monroe did the art, and then it never came out. They had this whole idea to put out a couple thousand copies, and then the radio station changed names and
Got bought up by a
got
Clearwire or whatever.
something happened. I don't even know, but it never
DJ
happened.
was bye-bye.
So I only have one promotional copy of that album that was made and mixed and mastered and artwork and liner notes and never came out. And that's what made 1 Week Live start the year after, because and then working with Eric and learning that idea, we did it again without being reliant on an outside radio
So
station.
the next year, did you do the G4? Did you bring the Pro Tools system like the next year? Or because you only did 1 or 2 years with the ADAT, right? Or
I think the next year was still possibly ADAT too, because I still have like old video.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
it's only 20 years ago. You
Yeah.
should remember that.
I don't remember. We'll have to look in the archives and see what tape it's on, or if it's on a hard drive.
So what? That was 99 or 2000?
That was probably 2002. I think was the first 1 Week Live, Volume 1.
Okay.
And Haley
Yeah.
was on it, and Eric Koskinen,
Yeah,
and Charlie
because
Parr.
ADAC.
Yep.
I think.
In the early ones. Because when I met you, you had the little G4 set up here with the
Yeah.
Pro Tools system, and it was Eric sitting down here by himself in the dungeon with maybe a little space heater by him.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right.
And then people would come down and just hang out with him because he's all lonely down here. Yeah. But that was inspiring to me. It was like, wow, this is really cool. Because I always wanted to, I was one of these people that bought a cassette 4-track recorder back in the 90s, that were total crap. And then I come here, and then here you guys are using Pro Tools, and you got 16 channels going off at once. And it was like amazing to me. It was really fun. It was a really fun learning experience. Just hanging out with Eric the first couple of years, and
It was
kind of inspired this whole studio, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
super amazing, and it still is, and now it's kind of annoying that every modern board just has that built in just to take a recording out of it.
Yeah. And it does a pretty good job.
Pretty good, actually. It's kind of a
Actually,
little
pretty good.
frustrating.
They have pretty good preamps in them now for cheap. Yeah.
Well, we never really said why we're here, I guess.
Yeah, I'm always really bad
Do you
about doing
edit
that.
this stuff? Do you
Oh,
kinda-
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, no, it gets chopped up a lot. Yeah.
So you put some effort into this.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, why are we here?
Well, the whole podcast is always a question. Why are we here? But this is, to me, the reason we're all here today is it is the reason 1 Week Live is here. It is the reason there's a studio below the cafe, and it kind of just shows the whole path from the first live recording to now, with some of the key friends that have made it happen. Eric Swanson, John Craig, Dan Dresser. If it wasn't for these 3 people, none of these recordings would have ever happened. And also just my knowledge of sound and recording, because if Dan wouldn't have bought the G5 cheese grater and we did the Hoot Owls upstairs, right after he pulled it out of the box, and it was like learned by fire. And Eric Swanson, I met him at RT Quinlan's when he was doing sound for me in 1995, and he taught me my whole knowledge of how to set up a board, organize the stage, gain staging, EQ, feedback, phase, which I still haven't figured out. But that's where I got my start of that knowledge. And then John Craig, I mean, I haven't learned anything from him because he uses microscopes to repair things. And when he starts talking about what he knows, I just don't know what he's saying anymore. So
That's okay. Most of the time,
But we-
I don't know what I'm saying either.
but we did have some good times playing music together, and
Yeah.
that's always fun too. And I love his old band, Lou Sony Quartet, and Swimming with Nancy, and of course Dan Dresser, multiple projects playing here, and all those good fun times.
It seems like very kind of important members of the local music scene, helping making it so people can be heard, I suppose. How did that kind of come about for you guys in in your life? Because I mean, I feel like audio is kind of a weird thing to get into.
Well, how did it come up for you, Eric? Because you started off, weren't you the sound? You were a sound person. You were like live sound mostly back in the day
For Vixen.
for Vixen. I just saw a video about Vixen the other day, and I thought of you. Were you the
I've
sound
heard
guy for
stories.
Vixen?
Yeah.
Do you know who Vixen is?
No.
Oh, you better look him up.
Yeah, you're missing out.
I didn't know they were a Minneapolis band or a Twin Cities band either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, studio and live, high school, pal around with the bands, but I not played very good.
Yep.
So, sound.
I can do that.
So, and fall into it, you
Mhm.
know. So, 21, 22 became a professional sound guy, and all of it, Brainiac and Lamont Cranston, and off night music hall because maybe Winnie Waldman, Bromberg, Alana Rhythm Section, Danny O'Keefe, and all of these I did, and monitors mainly, and then once that closed, I moved back to Duluth and set up actor sound guy. So in 3-4 years, and then I moved to Los Angeles, and that's where I met Vixen.
But you met them in Los Angeles, even though
Yeah.
they're from here.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, 1 year prior, moved to Los Angeles. Vixen is, and
Mhm.
then actor followed, and Keith Krupp managed Vixen, and 4 original girls: Jan Keeneman, Lori Hatton, Cynthia. I don't remember your name. And anyways, so I can sound and recording,
Mhm.
and also recording actor in Devonshire Studios. It was big time.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like an exciting time. Yeah. They were the girl metal band or hair band.
Like
I mean, how would you describe
kind of up
Vixen?
there with Heart, right?
Yeah, but they're an all-girl band
Yeah.
that had pretty good success nationally, I think. Yeah.
They changed members
hmm
and got 88, 89 signed a record contract for EMI. So, and 2 albums, and then grunge came in,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
and
Early '90s.
yeah, and that's
Yep.
Oh, it was
Bye
over.
bye.
That whole hairband thing was over.
yeah.
I was so happy when Nirvana came out. It was like they saved rock and roll as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry, they did.
I've heard so many stories of bands that were hair bands.
Because you were
pop,
like
it was done.
you're like a Poison fan, or you were.
Yeah.
Wow, I
And
was like,
I never could stand that band. And
Yeah.
I was so happy when I thought when Guns N' Roses came out, they kind of saved rock
I
and roll
loved
too.
Guns N' Roses.
They
for
were kind
sure.
of saved us from the hairband era.
But I mean, that was like when you're 13.
Yeah.
That's just sounded awesome. But
No, every rose has its thorn. Never sounded awesome to me.
oh yes, it did.
Boo,
pew, pew,
Nothing like getting off track.
Oh yeah, awesome.
So awesome.
You know the song. Everyone knows
Yeah,
the song.
that one. Yeah.
Yeah, made me want an ovation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I hated it when I got one.
I actually liked my ovation. I had an ovation. It was like a really nice sounding guitar. I don't know.
It's durable.
Yeah. Until I smashed it.
Yeah, I broke mine by accident too.
Yeah.
Did you? So when you were in LA though, you did sound at clubs too, like
Yeah.
Whiskey a Go Go, and
Yeah.
that must be. I don't know. Was it like RT Quinlan's in LA, pretty much?
Yeah.
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 Just
Doesn't
bigger.
matter
Just
where you are.
bigger.
Small club, small
Yeah.
club.
Yeah.
Drinks are $10 more.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
all the clubs, Manawongs, Central, Whiskey, Roxy, FM Station, Country Club, and on.
I've never gone to any of them.
I was at
Vaco
Whiskey.
would
I
know.
haven't either.
Vaco would
I
know.
went to Whiskey and Go-Go when that was pretty cool to go there. But I don't know if it's still the same. It's still there, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like at the little balcony. You can kind of look down at the
Yep.
band. It's
Yep.
a cool venue. It's not very big either.
Nope.
No. Kind of the spot, one of the spots. A lot of
Yeah.
bands have been discovered there
Yeah.
for sure.
And at that time, John, you were making
Probably playing music.
compressors or playing music, or
Well,
what were you-
before I met Eric, yeah, I started working for a gentleman who was a audio engineer, audio equipment designer. So I come at all of this from the hardware side of things. But I had met Eric previously before this happened. He and I were the road crew sound guys for Lori Line for a brief amount of time.
Oh, about 2 years, I
Yeah.
think, or 2.5 years.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a stint.
So
for
when
sure.
did you? So that was Summit Audio at the time you started working with Dave Hill. Or
That
it
was
Crane
Summit
Song?
Audio at the time.
Then it
yeah.
changed to Crane Song.
And then, yeah, when Dave had a falling out with his previous partner, Summit Audio moved out to the West Coast, and Dave started Crane Song again. And you can tell the difference between the two pieces of gear because Summit Audio has the big black knobs, and the Crane Song has the little green knobs.
Well, yeah, everybody knows.
See,
the
this
big
is a
knobs.
technical talk I can actually understand.
Black and green.
Some
Got
of
it.
the audio got tubes.
Yes,
And,
Summit Audio was
Crane Song solid state.
yes, all solid state, discrete solid state. Mainly because the designer was freaked out that he was going to get sued into obscurity if he did anything vacuum tubes, and I think that was a real shame because he was the perfect circuit head for vacuum tube stuff. He made some beautiful pieces. Anyway, so that's how I got involved in all of this, was from the hardware side. I had purchased a used kegerator from Jason. And
about that.
Dan was the only one here when I came to pick it up, so he helped me bring it to my house. And we went down into the basement of my house, and sitting on some shelves in the basement, doing nothing, were these pieces of audio gear. Most of them were, I call them rescue units, because they were deemed unfixable or whatever. And then some of them had actually been thrown in the trash. And I retrieved them out of the trash and fixed them. And
Yeah, and Jason had mentioned microscopes. Is he joking or is that? I mean,
Oscilloscope, more so, right?
no, some of the work, actually, I fixed a microphone for Eric Swanson where I actually had to use a microscope to tease a little piece of copper wire
Oh my
out so
gosh.
I could solder on it. But yeah, I'm the hardware guy.
But in the basement were all those green knobs.
In my house.
So you exchanged a
And
kegerator.
so Dan goes, "Oh, hey, what are you doing with all of those?" And I'm like, "Well, nothing. I think, maybe when I retire,
They're
I'll sell
rusting
them."
in my basement.
Yeah,
right
they're
now,
getting- yeah.
in my damp basement.
So Dan goes, "Hey, if we built a studio in the basement of Beaner's, which is now Wussow's, could we use those?" And I'm like, "Yes, you can." And my caveat to these two gentlemen was, if we do this, then I want you to open up your studio to people who may not be able to afford to actually record somewhere. They can still come here and get something recorded. So
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. I was kind of talking to Jason about this earlier, about how community seems to be a very kind of central aspect to, and supporting community seems to be a really central aspect to a lot of I think artists around here. And so I think it's interesting to hear you like directly say that. Yeah, literally that was part of the plan. I was giving them this equipment so that they could help other artists make stuff, which is, yeah, so that's nice. So where do you come into this then?
Dan was hitchhiking here.
No, I picked up a hitchhiker.
Oh yeah, you picked up a hitchhiker.
So I was coming up to Duluth, and I had a couple friends up here, and I was doing some carpentry work with them. And at the time, I wasn't playing music, and I'd been looking at the reader, and the reader had all these open mics, and I saw this place on Central Avenue that had open mics on Wednesday. And anyway, so I picked up this hitchhiker way in like Wadena, Minnesota. I don't know if you know where Wadena is. It's a long ways from here. And we're driving on Highway 10, and I'm like, I'm going to turn off on 210 to go to Duluth. Like, well, I'm going to Duluth. Like, well, that's great. I'll give you a ride to Duluth. So I gave him a ride to Duluth, and he just wanted me to drop him off up on the hill. Like I can walk to my house. Like, I'll just bring you right to your house. So, I said, where do I turn off? He goes, well, you got to turn off on Central Avenue. So I turned off on Central Avenue, and I drive right by this place. And it kind of like, after seeing it in the reader and like getting up the courage to play music again, I go, oh, now I have a visual of where this place is. And I swear to this day, when I drove by, Dave Manling was sitting out front smoking a cigarette.
Probably.
Yeah, I think he was probably 17 smoking a cigarette. And then I think a week or two later, I came to open mic, and I remember I was driving here from back in Otter Tail County, and I'm in McGregor, and I call up for open mic. I'm like, okay, you got a slot? Yeah, we got a slot like in an hour, and McGregor's about an hour away. So I like drove like a maniac getting here. So I didn't have enough time. I couldn't even think about getting nervous because I was in a hurry to get here. And then I got here, and I'm like, oh my God, I hadn't played on stage in like 5 years.
Oh.
And I got up and played 3 songs, and the first people I met were Dave Mailing, shook my hand when I got off stage, and Jeff James.
Oh, yeah.
Jeffrey James O'Loughlin, my favorite songwriter.
Well,
And-
both those two.
Yeah, and then I just started coming up here more, and pretty soon I was kind of living up here, and then I actually lived upstairs for a while.
Yeah.
And and it all kind of fell into place, and just started playing music again, and was inspired by the recording that Eric was doing with 1 Week Live and everything. And I always kind of wanted to be part of a studio. And then the band I was in at the time, the Brushstrokes, we had like, I don't know, $1,500 in our kitty. And we kind of threw that all at the studio selfishly so we could just do a recording, basically.
I left on tour for a month. I came back, and there's like, surprise, there's a studio.
There's a studio here.
I'm like, what?
I think we told you. You gave us permission.
I wonder.
I don't know if you thought it'd be this big and elaborate. It's not that big.
Yeah, maybe you thought more like a closet, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh.
Or you're going to buy G5. Okay, that's fine. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, but look how much space we have. There's a whole folding table in here, and
A
I mean,
whole folding table.
With our low ceiling.
and a low ceiling. Yeah.
It's felty, though.
Yeah.
Oh, Jason, you had mentioned some awards and stuff. I'm not. I wish I'd written down more.
Well, we were talking about that upstairs. I saw Eric's post about the winning a album that you recorded, winning a NAMI, which is a Native American Music Awards. I know about that from my friend Keith Sicola and Annie Humphrey and those guys. And so, but it was just making me think of all the great records Eric recorded at Sacred Heart. We didn't really talk about that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because when he moved back from L.A. and I don't know,
1990.
90, okay, and I moved in 95, and you were doing live sound and all over. Did you do like what was the blues bar, the Park Tavern?
Park Inn.
Park Inn, and but then Sacred Heart Studios started.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I got to do a lot of albums and mix a lot of albums with Eric, but also Eric did two of my favorite albums is Haley Bonner's Size of Planets at that studio. Also the Low Trust album, which is such a great album, and the first Treble by Turtles album. And so many more really great local. Jesse Loma. I got to play there with Sarah Softitch and record Rust and Bent on reel to reel, all analog gear, and it was so fun to mix with Eric at Sacred Heart because this was before everything was computerized. I mean, there was a computer, but it had an old analog console and old Altec tube compressors, and it was just so different to mix a record that way because you had to get every song, you had to mix it and get it right and then start all over on the next one and change all the knobs. So where now it's all computer, you make your changes, you go back and listen, and you're like, I want more of this or that. And you can open it up and it's there.
Yeah,
But
I
back
remember.
then, you just had to get it right, or else you just start all over again.
I've done a little bit of live audio. I did one play at UMD while I was a student there, and it was horrifying, I thought. But also it was all digital, so it really there wasn't even much I had to do. I was really kind of like playing piano with the mute buttons, where I had to just quickly turn off actors and turn them on real quick. And well, it's also something that scares me about painting, about film photography. It's just the idea that like, oh my god, if you mess it up, then you've ruined like a physical thing, and you're like, all right, well that's just that. Then you know,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
it sucks to suck.
Digital's much more forgiving.
Yeah, it's which I far
You can
prefer.
fix something, then if you don't like it, you can make it back to normal and fix it again. Yeah.
It's great. I love it.
Well, like with the reel-to-reel, like when if you want to overdub something, or they call it punching, you'll be playing along, and Eric will go punch, and then you're supposed to be awesome, and then unpunch,
Yep.
and you're supposed to fix your mistake. And that's so hard to do, first of all, as a musician, and to make it sound right. But you can also screw it up and accidentally record over the thing you liked by accident.
Yeah.
And you
Because
can't get
I've
it
done
back.
that. So
Yeah.
you can try to fix something and make it work. It's like me trying to fix a car. It just, there's extra parts and it's not right still. And I got to say, though, it was the most enjoyable time getting to mix with you at Sacred Heart. It's such a beautiful space to be in. And I don't know if it sounded better, or if it just, the extra work made it seem like it sounded better, but I don't know. But
Are you still using that same big board, or do you have a new board? Have you updated that yet?
48 channel Midas
Oh, you did update.
Heritage.
is that like the top of the line?
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Well, basically, yeah.
It's way above the Venice.
Oh, yeah. Soundcrafts, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a Soundcraft. No, it's a Midas.
Yeah. Well, first, when they got this studio, sound works. And then I got the Soundcraft 500. And then 16 channel Toft. Yeah. And then I got the Midas from Sound Central.
Oh,
Okay.
that's where I got my Midas from.
I wonder why they're dumping their Midas boards.
They're
No,
heavy
they-
and big.
Yeah. Well,
Because
yeah.
they're all walking around with iPads now.
Yeah.
But the 400 pounds, you know.
Yes.
But lend it to the studio permanently. So the preamps, oh man,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
What does it have?
Something-
Neve
What?
preamps, or what's the preamps?
No,
Just
Midas.
The Midas
yeah,
preamps.
but they're
So-
good.
There's
Oh,
something
yeah.
about really well-made analog preamps that are
Yeah.
just. It's like having big glass on the front of a huge digital camera, you know, instead of the tiny little phone camera or something. You can get so much more nuance of the sound. And
Do you feel like there's something lost in general from the overall shift to digital?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. But for most people, no. I think just the amount of distractions that are going on and people are listening to music, they're really not listening. You know, it's nice background, but a lot of times they're really not listening like you would in a studio, where you really can tell the difference between moving a microphone, you know, an inch and a half closer or further away from something. That type of environment and what you're able to do. And for me, analog circuits will showcase those changes better than digital will.
Yeah, just mic proximity. Yeah, because when you sync closer to the mic, it changes your voice. And
Change it, or even phase shifting that's happening. Yeah. And I'm an analog guy, so I have to say that disclaimer. I am an analog guy.
Yeah, no, I think there's nothing wrong with that. I just think it's scary personally.
Well, I'm analog on the way in.
But
Pro
digital
Tools.
in the manipulation.
Yeah.
it's in the noise. You don't have any tape hiss in digital.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my battle when I started recording in a little 4-track recorder. Like,
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
You know, and that's like digitally, you just don't have that. That's what I
Hey,
like.
come
about
on, I
digital.
can't even hear that now.
Yeah, you can, John. It's What are you talking about?
That's why you're an analog guy. I love
It all sounds wonderful
What
to me,
tape
nice
is?
and warm.
putting my next album out on cassette.
What is something like what is the favorite thing of yours that you've worked on, do you think? Whether that be building something or mixing something or recording something.
I probably had the most fun recording the Brushstrokes album
Yeah.
because we spent probably $600 or $700 down here, and then we went and mixed and mastered it with Eric.
Yeah.
And we just like Dave and I and Jeremy, the drummer, we had many late nights here banging on the pipes, and
Yeah.
we would, there's a lot of extra sounds on that album.
So if you don't know the Brushstrokes, Stephanie Longstreet, Dan Dresser, George Ellsworth, Dave Mailing, Chris Eddy, and who am I forgetting? But anyway, like this all-star band of like some of the best songwriters, and it was such a cool moment in time, the Brushstrokes here at the cafe and that record coming out. And
We practiced here every Sunday after close. I can't believe you let us do that, but we did.
I can't believe everyone's alive.
Nothing ever happened either. We were out pretty good. I think we got locked out a couple times, but when Chris would leave, because he was the only one with the key back then.
I like the Dan Dresser album.
Yeah?
The
Yeah.
3-song Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 3
Me
songs
too.
Sunday.
That's a highlight for me.
Well, thanks. Yeah, you were pretty involved in that one, too.
Yeah. Mix it.
Mhm.
You know, you recorded it, but I mixed it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And pay me in beer. So
Oh, I remember coming and mixing at Sacred Heart, and I'd always bring like a 6-pack, or
Yeah.
usually try not to bring more than a 6-pack.
yeah.
What was it? Eric would always go, I said, what kind of beer you want me to bring? Just bring a session beer. So what was one of the beers? It was red. What's the Jamaican beer?
Red Stripe.
Red Stripe.
Red Stripe,
was
yeah.
a good one. Yeah.
Isn't that the one that had if you turned off the cap and on the inside it was like rock, paper, scissors? Or
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Coors does that too, I think. They do some weird stuff like
That's
that.
fun.
Yeah. But
It's like jokes and popsicle sticks.
Laffy Tappies.
Yeah, yeah.
how about you, John? Probably playing with Lou?
I was going to say musically, yeah. I think playing with Lou Arsoni, there were moments because he was such a good songsmith, a good wordsmith. He could get an audience totally enthralled when we weren't drinking too much, when we were actually really playing. And there are moments, you could actually feel all of that, and that was very much one of my highlights. So
If you can find a copy of Women Drinking Beer by Lou Arsoni, it's
actually, yeah, I should actually just bring them because so many people have said, can I get a copy of this? Can I get a copy of that? I have digital copies of all that stuff. I should just bring them here to Beaners, and if anybody just asks, you can get one for free.
put it on like online somewhere. Just
I
what is
could.
it, Garage Band or something.
Because one of the things that happened when Lou died in the New Year's Day 2001,
I know.
I was able to get a hold of all of the physical recording medium that he had, which was CDs and cassette tapes and reel-to-reels at Dave's studio. And I put together a collection of everything I could get my hands on. And I held on to that. That was later, how can I put this delicately? It was requested that I give up ownership of that after Lou had been gone for 7 years. But anyway, so I have this, and then I've just made a bunch of copies, and then I've just been sitting on them. I haven't really done anything with them, so shame on me for that one.
Well, maybe now's the time that you're thinking about it.
Yeah, now people are going to be banging on my door. Boom, boom, boom. Where's that CD?
They're going to be asking, do you have any CD players?
Yeah. On top of it.
Well, there's that, yeah.
I mean, if you have a car that's a few years old, you still got one.
Yeah, it's got to be old enough, though.
My car, even my new car still has a tape deck.
Oh, you have a tape
tape
deck
deck?
even?
My last 4 new cars have still had tape decks.
Shows how new your cars are.
Of course. Jason's last 4 cars, none of them have been younger than 25 years old.
This is the newest, oldest. Or the oldest, newest.
Are they from this century?
This century, this one is. Yeah.
Okay.
What is that? 2006?
I don't know.
That had to be
It's
the
got-
last year cassettes. They were,
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's got 250,000 miles. Yeah. But
does the cassette player work?
I don't know. Oh, yeah, it does.
My pickup truck has a
Yeah.
cassette player, and Dave Malin, getting back to Dave Malin, he
I have
put out
Dave
an
Mailing
album,
Beach Boy in
a
my...
really good album, and he put it out on cassette, and I was so pissed off. Like, what are you doing? You're just trying to be hip.
It's in my plow truck.
And it's got some really good songs on it. It's only on cassette. Do you have that, Beach
No.
Boy? Oh my God, there's 2, 3 just. Well,
You
Dave-
can stream it, though.
probably is.
Yeah.
But it's
It's
got some
really
really
good.
good stuff on it. But it's only on cassette.
Yeah.
So the only time I told Dave, the only time I ever listened to it was in my truck. You know, sitting out in my yard drinking beer, my old Dodge truck. You know, listening to your Beach Boy. It's probably still in the cassette player, actually.
Well, that's really good for the tape and the heads.
Yeah, he's probably got another.
I
one.
know. I don't take care of my tapes.
Because it probably was like halfway through a song when you turn the truck off and it just...
Oh yeah, it just sits there.
And then you start it up and it's cold. It's like...
You wonder why it has that weird spot in the middle of the song.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I did request a digital copy of it. I think you could get a digital copy of that. But is that fad over with? Are people still doing cassettes? I mean,
I think it's growing.
Oh God.
And hair
Is
bands
it
are coming
growing or
back.
groaning? It's one of those two.
I wanted John to mention something different than sound. This story that you were the cook on this canoe adventure. That was the wildest thing.
Okay, you have to tell me that again. I'm not really following. By the way, folks, I'm totally deaf on one side, and as my wife would say, half deaf on the other side.
When that Voyager canoe thing where you were the cook.
Oh,
These guys, I don't know if Eric likes to cook, but I know Dan likes to cook. And when I had a broken foot, he cooked me one of the best meals at his house back in Ottertail. And John likes to garden and cook. And
okay. My wife works for the U.S. Forest Service. When the United States and Canada both had a centennial celebration of the boundary waters and the U.S. The Park Service, they cooked up this idea where they would get a crew of 9 individuals. There would be like 4 from the U.S. and 5 from Canada. And as we traveled, that number would switch back and forth. I went on as the cook. So it was a 350 miles and it took us 14 days. I cooked breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a 9-person crew in this big Voyager canoe. So there were 9 of us in there. You would be sitting side by side and paddling.
And you cooked in the canoe?
No, I cooked at the campsite.
That would have been something.
I thought, wow.
That would have been great, yeah. A little hibachi off the side. We're having surf and turf today. There'd be beef jerky and a bass that somebody grabbed on their way out of camp. Yeah.
That would have been incredible.
but you were canoeing in the big lake, right?
Yeah, we actually did go out on Lake Superior for 2 of the 14 days, and that's when I learned that big decorative front end of those canoes that comes way up and curls, that's not decoration. That actually serves a function.
Oh.
Because got into swells that were, you're down in the swell, you couldn't see anything else. So the swells were at least 4 or 6 feet, whatever. The front of the canoe we'd ride down one swell and we'd hit this wall of water, which is the next swell coming at us. And because of that, front of the canoe was curved and sticking up so high, the front of the canoe would just pop up and go on top. And I thought, yeah, if that had been like a regular canoe, we just would have
Been
torpedoed
swamped.
right in there.
Oh.
And we were probably about a mile away from the shore at that point, mainly because the wind was coming up. And if we got any closer to shore, the people who knew what they were doing said, we got to stay out here because the swells are less violent here. And one guy goes, no, we should get closer to the shore. And our leader said, look over there and tell me what are those waves doing. And of course, the waves are hitting the rocks and going way up in the air. And he was like, oh, maybe we should stay out here. So yeah, that was fun.
I thought you were gonna ask him about like the first few years we were doing this. John would brew beer,
Oh, we were going to talk about that.
I did have that. in my note,
especially
actually.
for
John-
ginger ale.
Ginger
was it?
pale ale.
I did actually, it was a ginger amber.
Well, you brewed 3 kegs for my wedding, and it was delicious. And
And what happened was, I would brew beer and bring it here because, well, the first year
yeah,
I helped out. No one brought any beer, and then afterwards, Jason was like, "God, you guys drank like $1,200 worth of beer," and I'm like, "Oh shit!" So the next year, I show up with kegs of beer. We put the kegs in, ice buckets outside the door.
the studio.
And
Oh.
what happened was the party moved from upstairs down here. And then Jason was like, I want people to be upstairs, not downstairs.
Because there's like a keg of beer
Yeah,
for
there's
the
more
band.
people downstairs than watching the show. Yeah, I remember that now.
So we have weaned ourselves off from the free beer for everybody to just some 6-packs for the operators.
But those are fun times. I mean, there were some really interesting moments, I thought. Nothing ever got too out of hand. And I thought of some interesting conversation around the keg out there. And,
It was a total blast. It
yeah.
was-
I mean, we were recording music and
dangerous
didn't
total
screw it up
blast.
too bad. And
didn't screw it
it was
up.
usually bands would come down. They just want to see what was
No,
going
it was
on.
it was really
the
fun.
bands and their girlfriends and the girlfriends' fathers a lot of times would come down.
The girlfriend's father is interesting.
Well, I'm making that part up.
Oh man, I guess there's too many other stories.
Well, oh yeah. I mean, God, I'm sure this could go on. So you guys have years of stories, I'm sure. But we only have so much time, and I have to still edit this at some point. So,
No, it's been a blast.
yeah, it's been really nice meeting you guys. And I hope it's been nice for you guys to all reunite for an hour or whatever it's been.
Yeah, I have no idea.
We get along pretty good, I guess. It's fine.
And you should thank your lucky stars that you don't have a reel-to-reel where you actually have to cut out the dead spaces by removing tape.
I think about that when I see the little digital scissors, I think,
They used to do it that
Yeah.
way.
That's the scissors. That
Yeah.
was actually tape.
Exactly.
That's funny that they do that. They put
Yeah.
the little digital
Oh
scissors
yeah, they
on
use
the
all
screen.
the same physical terminology.
Oh yeah,
There's
definitely. Splicing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Except it's much easier to splice an audio file and
Oh, yeah.
fade it
I would-
nice and make it nice and perfect now.
So a system crash back then would be someone falls into the reel-to-reel while you're tracking, and it stretches a tape, and
Yeah.
now do we cut out that and there's a blip missing?
Yeah. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, too, it's all magic. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I sort of understand how some of this works digitally, but how do you do a crossfade physically? I don't know. I understand, but like, what is it doing? You slide the levers and or the faders.
That's what those are. They're faders.
So
But how does that work?
Well, you're
But then
taking this-
I'm not gonna understand even if anyone explains it to me. So
don't bother.
so don't bother. It's magic. It's
I love
magic.
It's magic.
like the one least sound person has to be in a podcast with all the sound people.
Yeah, and it's gonna go. Oh wow, interesting.
Well, I think
Torturous.
digital is magic. Like John's tried to explain digital to me before, and to me, it's just magic. It's like I can kind of see how it works, but it doesn't seem possible.
I can't understand it.
You know,
Oh,
I can
it's
understand analog
very
tape
possible.
how it works, but the digital part of it, it seems like it's just bits of information somehow that becomes someone's voice. You know.
You're just taking tens of thousands of snapshots of sound
Mm-hmm.
every second. That's how it works.
Mhm.
So each one is just it's
It's basically like a snapshot. Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
well, it's no different than a film, moving pictures.
Mhm.
Every frame on a moving picture is just a still,
Mm-hmm.
but you have enough of them together, and it looks like people are moving around, and
So it is magic.
it's movie magic.
Isn't it? Let's all go home and make a flip book.
Oh, I love that idea. I'm
You can get that. You're the cartoonist.
That one I can do. Anytime you talk about images, I'm like, oh yeah,
See,
that
now,
guy.
now you understand.
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
digital. That's
Yeah.
that's it.
Though-
right
Go
there.
though-
15 more minutes.
But then, how did they play sound with a film movie? I don't know. They had
Depends. Years ago, it used to be they would actually have a light pattern. You'd have the frames of the film, and next to it would look like this little. Well, it would look like those waveforms on there, but they were light, and it would just read it through an optical reader and turn it into sound.
That's magic to me too.
Yeah, this all is magic to me.
I feel like it makes less sense now. How does
Sorry,
it turned from light to sound?
I have to apologize. I am the hardware guy.
And then, fade out at some point. That's easy.
All right. Too fun.